Good afternoon. I'm Joseph Neuberger from Neuberger Partners, and I'm talking to you today about the measures that we've put in place at our law firm to help us practice criminal law during the COVID-19 pandemic and all the measures that are in place. Firstly, I just want to indicate that we've all gone through tremendous change in our lives as a result of these measures that are in place, but it's very important that we all follow the directives from our government and local authorities in order to keep ourselves safe and then protect each of us in the community. So I hope that you're all doing well and your families are doing well, and we're all pulling together as one large community to help stop the spread of this very serious and deadly contagion. And there are many people and businesses who are suffering now as a result of these measures, and so it's a challenge. And in the field of criminal law that we practice as defense lawyers, there's been a lot of changes. And before I get into, again, what I want to talk about, which is what my firm has done and some other issues, I should note that when the pandemic hit and immediate measures were put in place, the criminal courts were grappling with how to deal with persons coming before them. Those were people who were arrested and appearing in court, and those that were coming for bail hearings. And it was very challenging because there are a lot of health issues and there are many players or stakeholders in the justice system, including Crown attorneys, judges, justice of the peace, the duty counsel, and others. And so there were some real issues with respect to how to try and address people who are arrested and in bail. The Criminal Lawyers Association volunteered. Members went to the courts, putting at risk their own health, working side by side with duty counsel and with court staff in order to ensure that people who are entitled to bail should get bail. And measures were put in place as well to deal with people who are arrested, because what's important is that we don't create a larger issue in our jails right now. And so it was very important to ensure that unless those cases which absolutely demand somebody to be held in custody, they should be released in order to prevent greater dangers occurring within our jail system. And one can imagine that if the virus broke out in such a very nefarious way in our jails, the damage that it would cause would be insurmountable. And so many lawyers who volunteered through the hard work of the Criminal Lawyers Association and various other associations worked with all these stakeholders to make sure that measures were put in place for bail. And that brings me to sort of some of the things that's happened now with our court system. So the court system essentially is shut down except for in-custody cases that are urgent and bail hearings. And the courts are grappling now with how to modernize in a very short time period to try and address these issues. And so there's call-in bail hearings, some teleconferencing that's used, but there is a system now in place to deal with people who are charged, who are in custody and come up for a bail hearing. And there are many brave decisions coming out by jurists that unless absolutely necessary, people are to be released in order to avoid these very serious health risks within a jail setting. With respect to out-of-custody matters, and what that means is people who are now in the system, but they're not in jail, they're waiting to have their cases dealt with either through a trial or some other type of resolution. Those are, for the most part, on hold at the moment, and the Crown attorneys and the various people involved in the criminal justice system, like defense lawyers, are trying to work out creative ways of dealing with these cases while we are essentially locked down and many of us are working remotely. And so we have to continue these efforts for the next several weeks to see how we manage these cases. But for the most part, in the Superior Court of Justice, jury trials are down and non-urgent trials are down, as well as the same for the Ontario Court of Justice. And they're all matters that come up for an appearance, or what we call a set date in the business, or for trials have been adjourned at least for 10 weeks and maybe adjourned again for another 10 weeks, depending upon how long these measures will be in place. Because again, ultimately what we're aiming for is to get that curve down and stop the spread of this virus. So while that's ongoing, people are still getting arrested, and my firm, like other criminal law firms, have to respond to the urgent and emergency matters that face clients. And so we're open, and we work on a remote basis with rotating staff in the office, but we've taken measures to ensure the safety of our staff as well as safety of any person who comes into our office for assistance. We have sanitization protocols in place with respect to hand sanitizers, which are available and must be used when anybody comes in. Of course, we don't shake hands. We have detailed questions asked of anybody before they come into the office to screen them and to make sure that they are healthy or not exhibiting any symptoms that would put anybody at risk. Otherwise, we're able to assist these people through remote access. Thanks to many of my colleagues in the office, John, Chris, Yuvika, Maria, Grace, we're all working and developing our systems so that we can operate remotely and have FaceTime with our clients and talk to them through our computer systems. I'm not the most technologically advanced individual, but I'm learning, and I've got the help of my wonderful staff here at the office to try and have this available. So if we have some concerns about somebody who needs our help, and we can't have them in the office because we have to protect our staff's health as well as that of the community, then we're able to deal with them on a remote basis, and we have technology available. We are continuing work on our current matters remotely because there are trials coming up beyond the closure time periods, and clients need their matters dealt with, and so we're working diligently behind the scenes to make sure these cases are moving forward and our clients are constantly updated as to what's going on. As I said earlier, we have available to us continuing abilities to have teleconferences, emails, virtual meetings through Skype or Zoom, so that our current clients are up to date and can have meetings with us. Again, with respect to urgent matters, these have occurred, and we are meeting with people on a as-needed basis, again with the protocols that are in place in the office. And we've had the assistance of our own maintenance service here that sanitizes our office on a very regular basis, and we take those measures ourselves to make sure once we've met with somebody, we continue to clean the office and make sure everybody's safe. People have been contacting us, interestingly, about issues related to the Quarantine Act and to the provincial and municipal health orders. And that's taken on a life of its own because there's some confusion out there and concerns about what they can and cannot do, and what does this mean from some sort of an enforcement point of view. So I have written some blogs on this, but we've been fielding questions, interestingly enough, from people asking about what happens to travelers. Do they really have to stay home? And we enforce through our communications with these people that it's vital that these orders are strictly obeyed. And this is for all of our safety and for the safety of our health workers who are on the front line, including police officers, paramedics, fire, and those in the hospitals, because if we increase those that are impacted by this virus, we're going to put greater stress on our medical infrastructure, and we should not do that. And so I emphasize to people that, first of all, under the Quarantine Act, Canadians who've been repatriated and coming back to the country must undergo a mandatory 14-day quarantine. And quarantines can be extended. There's a Quarantine Act. And if there's any violation of that act, a person is liable to first being warned, but more importantly, they can be subjected to prosecution, to fines, and in extreme circumstances, arrested and placed in custody. And there are jail sentences available under the Quarantine Act. So this is really serious business, and people need to obey that. So when travelers come back to Canada, it is vital that they self-isolate and maintain that self-isolation on an ongoing basis for the time period prescribed in order to protect everybody's health. And in some cases, those have to go beyond 14 days. And in particular, for those travelers who've come back from abroad and are ages of, let's say, 65 or over, or in their 70s, it's very important that they are obeying these quarantine orders, but are also self-isolating for longer periods of time because they are at most risk. Just recently, our Premier, Doug Ford, who's done a very good job in responding to the urgency of this situation, has indicated that these health orders that are provincial and municipal in nature will be strictly enforced. And that's very important, and people are a little confused about what that means. And what that means is we have a particular act in Canada, or in Ontario, it's an Emergencies Act, and that act itself has powers for enforcement, and that can include people, again, being fined anywhere from $750 up to $100,000, and being arrested and prosecuted, and if in extreme circumstances, jail, which can go up to 1 year. So this is serious business that people have to obey. And what the government is trying to do provincially is make sure that people are not attending the public areas. School grounds where there are basketball courts and playgrounds are not to be entered by anybody. Again, public basketball courts, tennis courts, any type of recreational area. I mean, certain green spaces are open, like trails for people to walk, but they have to practice social distancing. But with respect to all of these other areas that are public areas that are closed now, the orders are in place and will be strictly enforced. And if somebody's approached by a municipal bylaw officer, a police officer, and asked about being in that location, they can be asked about their identification, they must comply, and they can be charged and fined. And if they obstruct an officer in any way in performing their duties, whether it's a bylaw officer or a police officer, that can lead to further charges. So the takeaway message from all of this is both the Quarantine Act and the Emergency Act, which is in place, and these orders, is that we should all do our level best to try and obey these orders as strictly as possible, stay home as much as possible, not go out unless it is absolutely necessary to get supplies, and so that we protect each other. And breaching these orders and enforcement is really not the way we should go about this as a community. I think it's really important that we pull together and do the right thing. And that means that we just simply obey these orders because we know that it's in our best interests, and it's in the best interests of our friends, our family, and people who we may not know, but members of the community. And as Canadians, we do a good job of pulling together in times of strife, and we have that now. So I've been fielding these questions regarding the Quarantine Act and these local orders. And so I've been telling everybody the same message, that they must be obeyed and they will be enforced. And I'm informed through our contacts that there will be greater presence in our communities for bylaw enforcement officers and police officers to enforce these. So please obey these orders and do the best you can to stay home. And I know I have children, I have teenagers, and we are a busy home, and it's not easy in these times to keep everybody in the house. And so you may go out and walk and take a bike ride, but remember social distancing, keep a routine, and try and find other ways to keep everybody motivated and active, because it is a difficult time. But this will come to an end soon. It may not be 30 days, it may not be 60 days, but it's not going to be forever. And what we do now will help us in the long run, especially when it comes to our own health and our economy. I might want to add also that the ability to access our clients and the public to give information, which is important for people so that they understand really what are the rules, what's at play here. Social media plays an important role, and I've been very lucky to partner up with Social Eyes and Marley with that company, who's done a great job in assisting us being able to access the community through all sorts of social media mediums, so that we're able to get the message out about what we're doing to help our clients and other individuals who are stuck and need help within the business that we do, but also that we can get out the right messaging about what's in place in our community for our own safety. And so we're very thankful for our partnerships that have continued to work with us remotely to try and help us get these messages out. I hope that people are generally feeling good and positive about what's in the future for us, and I hope that everybody remains healthy and safe, and for the most part sane, and do your best to keep that going forward, because it looks like we have sunny days coming up, and so some good walks and a little bit of sun hopefully will lift the spirits. We'll be coming back from Neuberger Partners probably next week to give an update. There are ongoing changes in the courts. As I said at the outset, the courts right now are being forced under these circumstances to modernize. And so there will be more information that we can provide, and we'll try and provide some information with respect to other areas as well, including family law and civil cases, because that may be of benefit to other individuals who are paying attention to these casts over the social media. And we want to try and provide as much information as possible that's accurate to help those who may have questions in these areas as well. So thank you for watching this video and for staying tuned with me, and I wish everybody the very best and to stay healthy and happy and know that we will all get through this together. Thank you.